for me. Run through the land, you run through my soul. Bring me wisdom and peace. Run through all ages and all of life's stages. You bring me around to find my release.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have from Westboro, Cara Presley. And she is she's the director, let me get this straight, of the Westboro Youth and Family Services. She's a counselor there. And what they do is they help children and families cope with crisis. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, where did I read about this? Do you remember?
I think that you saw my letter that was printed in the Community Advocate.
Okay.
As a letter to the editor.
Okay, I get that. I subscribed to it. I get it all the time. This couldn't be more timely, folks. I mean, with the stuff going on in the schools and the weapons and all this and that. How long have you been a counselor?
I have been a therapist for 18 years now.
Wow. Where'd you go to college?
I went to graduate school at the University of Minnesota in St. Paul.
What brought you out to Massachusetts?
I have lived all over the place, and life brought me everywhere, and I've been in Massachusetts now 10 years.
Where'd you grow
11
up?
years.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Kansas, rural Kansas.
Oh, my, what do you think of it out here? Is it people in New England a little fast, or is it...
People are fast. They are not the friendly Midwesterners, I have to admit. Not that people here aren't friendly, but it's a very different culture.
I know, you're like me. I have lived in every New England state except Vermont.
Oh.
And I'm going back to my high school reunion.
Oh.
And a lot of these kids never left that area.
Exactly.
So there isn't as much to talk about.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of got to be careful, because like, you and I have been around the block. But if they haven't, they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And it's a little bit strange. So you went and did you know after high school that you were going to do this as a counselor?
I did know I was going to be a social worker. So my degree is actually in social work, and both of my parents are social workers. And so I was exposed to the profession very early, and it just seemed to fit for me. So I have an undergraduate degree in social work, and I have a master's degree in social work, and the master's degree is what led me to be a therapist.
Now, how long have you been the director over there?
Just 1 year. 1 year last week, actually.
Oh my gosh! So
Yes.
how long were you there before you were director?
Well, I don't live in Westboro. I got the job as director, coming from a different job, totally outside of municipal government.
And that's it?
That's it.
Now, explain, what do they do over there? Westboro Youth and Family Services, and you like to focus in on the trauma, helping families, children cope with trauma. Tell us about it.
Well, interestingly, we actually are what I would consider a generalist counseling organization or department, which means that we see people who come in with all kinds of behavioral health issues, anything from depression to adjustment disorders to family conflict, all the way up to and including trauma. So one of the roles that we play in the town, though, is that when there is some kind of tragedy in the community, a crisis that affects a particular family, we often get referrals from the schools or from the police department, sending those families to us for some immediate intervention. And then sometimes we continue to see them for ongoing care. Sometimes we refer them out to other resources.
Right. Now, so in high school and in the lower grades too, well, I don't know when my son was growing up, but maybe it still is now. A biggie was ADHD. And we parents, we thought we were doing the best we can. We gave them Ritalin, we gave them the other ones and this and that. And then now these millennials come back at us like, well, why did you drug me so much? That's why I'm a mess and all. What is with this? I mean, we thought that was what we were supposed to do.
Well, I think that research still shows that attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, it's a chemical thing in the brain, which means that medication is an effective treatment. I am not a doctor, so I will not talk to you about exactly how the medication works or if it's best or not best, but it is typical for someone with ADHD to receive treatment that's a combination of medication and then sometimes therapy as well, if they need to learn different skills for how to get organized, if they need to learn also how to regulate the emotions that come with some of the impulsive behavior, in case their families need to learn ways to help manage their children's behavior.
It's tough because, you're a parent, and I went through this. You dread getting the note in their backpack, or maybe the call. Like, your son marched out of the room today in class and said he could teach this better than the teacher wasn't doing it right. I know there are different learning styles.
Right.
The audio, the visual, the kinesthetic, like
Sure.
this. I've never figured out my son. He's all of them. But it's like, there's a lot of parents out there with this generation. Yeah, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do if they learn a little differently? Unfortunately, they tend to put some of them in the special ed class. They're not slow.
Mm-hmm.
They're fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they want to learn a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it can do a number on a kid. Well, they put me in the special ed class, and ooh.
So now, luckily, there are, at least in Westboro, some creative ways of intervening with kids who have, whether it's learning disabilities, which is what we traditionally think about with special education, or if it's emotional or behavioral problems that interfere with their ability to learn. And so the interventions, depending on what the child's needs are, will vary. So it is unlikely that kids with primarily emotional or behavioral issues are going to be receiving the same special ed care that kids with major learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities or such will. So they'll have individualized plans that will be unique and hopefully appropriately targeted to their specific needs as individuals.
And parents out there know what I'm talking about. It's like, I don't know, try to get an IEP.
Right.
You've got to be sharp. And a lot of parents are intimidated. They'll walk into the conference room. Oh, the school's got everyone lined up.
Yes.
Don't even be intimidated. I went in there. I got a free counselor from Boston Family Services.
Okay.
What is it? She was terrific. She was a
Yes.
mediator.
Oh,
We get along just like that.
Great.
I explain my side. She gets up, goes in their room, comes back. We got a deal.
that's great.
And it took this to get this through.
Right. It can be an intimidating process to go into an IEP meeting and to navigate that whole process. And there are agencies outside of the school system that provide support to parents navigating that system. But they are hard to find, and some people are eligible for those services and some people aren't. So even navigating that system, once you get it, great. Then you have someone in your corner. But finding that person for some families can be a real chore as well.
I'm trying to think it's out of Boston, Children and Family Services. She didn't charge anything. She
Yeah.
probably had a salary, and she did.
Right.
She came all the way from probably that area down to this area.
Wow.
She was terrific.
That's
I mean, it was
great.
like, what magic wand did you use that I haven't tried?
That's great.
Now, we were just talking about the article that I saw in the newspaper that you wrote. You must be seeing not just the children affected by the shooting in the schools. Like I was saying, I don't know if my mother and father could have gotten me to go. I was pretty, sensitive to stuff like that. It would have scared the bejesus out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and the parents, there are some couples that they disagree, okay? And that's causing, I've read about it, it's causing such a rift. Some of them are divorcing now. Is this true? Do you see this?
This isn't something that I have experience with specifically, but my motivation for writing that letter, I wrote it as a letter to the Westboro community, and I got really lucky that it was widely distributed even beyond that.
Yeah.
But my motivation was because I know that I have been reacting to my own exposure on the media to all the mass shootings and the violence and the hate-motivated activities. I know that I feel distressed, and I'm a professional in this field, and I'm very skilled at self-care and coping with these kinds of things. But if I'm distressed, how distressed might the average person be? How distressed might the average parent be who's sending kids to school every day, not knowing what's going to happen? So that was my motivation, because I see it's not really so much in the individual clients that we serve every day, although I certainly see the impact there, but it's also in folks at the grocery store. It's in the people in the meetings that I go to every day. It's the teachers that I work with every day who are working with kids to do these drills. It's the principals and the student resource officers who are saying, how do we keep the kids in our school system safe without scaring them?
I know.
And so that was where my motivation came, was to say that this violence impacts everyone.
Yes.
My heart goes out to the people that it impacts directly, the people who are killed or injured or losing loved ones as a result. And I also want folks to know that you're not alone if you're impacted, even if you're on the other side of the television from where this news is.
Yeah.
It can have a very widespread impact. And while there are some universal kind of symptoms and signs that you've been negatively affected, it can also be unique for each person. And what I want the message to be is that you are not alone if you are affected, and there are ways for you to get support, and there are ways for you to heal, and there are ways for you to help each other to not feel so isolated.
When parents bring in a child, right, that they know that the kid is scared to death, children are like sponges. They see on television, they hear about what happened. How do you reach a child who's petrified to go to school?
Well, oftentimes I think the impact on kids around this stuff is less direct than that. There may be some kids who are specifically afraid to go to school, but also kids just kind of become generally hypervigilant. They see the people around them being vigilant, they hear the talk. Some kids, certainly, if they see it on TV, that is going to make them wonder, am I going to be safe? But even sort of the buzz around it from the adults in their lives can have an adverse effect. And what I suggest to parents to do with children, and certainly what we do as counselors with kids, is to make space and invite them to talk to you about, how are you feeling about this? Tell me your fears.
Right.
Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your worries. Are you angry? I want to know about it. Now, at the same time, being respectful of kids' boundaries and not pushing so hard for kids who don't want to talk about it, not to. But really saying, I'm a safe person to talk to. I'm not afraid to hear what you have to say. I am going to do everything I can to keep you safe, and I want to know how you feel. That is the most important thing that we can do for kids, is to let them know that their feelings matter, that there's no wrong feeling to have, and that we, the grown-ups in their lives, are going to do everything in our power to keep them safe.
Perfect. I love that. I could listen to her all day. We're talking with Cara Presley, and she's the director of the Westboro Youth and Family Services. They help children and families cope with all kinds of issues. What is the latest thing now on autism? What do you think? What's going on?
We don't do a whole lot of specialized services in around the autism spectrum disorder, but I think one of the things that a lot of people are unaware of is a few years ago we had some major changes in what we know as the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is the large manual that helps us keep track of all of the diagnoses that people have in the realm of behavioral health. And we used to know autism as autism and Asperger's and some other diagnoses that were sort of similar, but they were separately diagnosed. One of the things that people are not that familiar with is that now all of those disorders are considered on the autism spectrum disorder.
That's what I heard.
ASD. So you're going to start hearing that term a lot, ASD. And you're going to hear about people who have more severe or acute ASD and folks who have much higher functioning ASD. And so that's something just interesting for people to keep aware of.
Also, parents, being a grandma, my son started early. We have a little grandson, and I noticed, I think I'd read somewhere, by 18 months you notice some of the red flags with the child. Get busy, get on it, because if you catch it early enough, and it worked, I was the one who said, look, guys, I'm calling out his name. He's not even looking at me. I knew that was one of the...
Right.
Do you know she listened to me? And she got help. They would come to the apartment a couple times a week. So he was only maybe 2 years old.
Right.
3 years. And they worked with him. You'd never really know there was anything.
There are some fantastic services. My guess is that may have been early intervention services.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There are fantastic services for kids, not only who have ASD, but also who have other developmental issues, developmental delays, difficulties with speech, some physical challenges, and those kind of interventions are helpful to just get kids caught up
and
with
stay
their
in
developmental
night.
level. Yeah.
He not only does he look at you, but he'll just recite all the planets in the universe. He's gone the other way, communicative, and lives up here.
Aww.
It was a blessing. I'm
That's
telling you.
nice.
I'm like, thank God one of us caught this, because that's
Right.
not normal. I mean, I never saw it in my family where we'd say, hey, Jan, and the kid doesn't look back.
Right.
I said, there's something wrong. He's in his own world, guys.
Right.
that's just not normal.
Right.
And we got it.
That's
Cara,
great.
how could they reach you?
Sure. There are probably two great ways to get a hold of us. We are always available by phone.
Okay.
So our phone number is 508-366-3090. And there you will reach a menu, and you can dial to talk to anyone. You can dial to talk to me. You can wait and see who answers the phone. We're a small team of 4 people in our office.
And you're located where now?
We are located in Westboro. We are going to very soon be moving to the Forbes Municipal Building, which is at 45 West Main Street, right across from Town Hall, right next door to the library.
Oh, okay. I know. You have the library, the parking there. God, it's tough.
The parking is tough. Luckily, Westboro has a good amount of street parking that is relatively accessible, but certainly they are also looking. The building hasn't opened yet. We don't have occupancy. We will within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they are looking at the parking very carefully.
Yeah. As director, what is your responsibility? She's a counselor as well. But as your director, what do you have to keep on top of a lot?
Sure. Well, I have a whole bunch of hats that I wear.
Yeah.
Certainly, one of the kind of base fundamentals is that I am a therapist. I see a handful of clients. We provide counseling to children, to elders. All ages of people can come to us for counseling. So I do provide some counseling. I also supervise our clinical staff and our administrative assistant. So I provide clinical supervision and general supervision. I also serve as the point person for our department to all the other town departments. So I do a lot of collaborative work with other departments like the recreation department, the library, the police, the schools, the fire department, the board of health.
Yeah.
We all work together on a variety of community projects and task forces. I recently just got appointed to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee in Westboro, which is a huge priority not only of mine personally, but part of our mission and values as a department of Youth and Family Services.
You go to the Westboro Library, even Shrewsbury, and it's like the UN.
Right.
I mean, from people from just about every continent.
It's true.
It's kind of cool.
It's true.
Yeah.
Westboro is almost a quarter folks who are immigrants.
Yep.
Yeah,
A lot of
or
Indian-
from immigrant
Indian
descendant
folks.
families.
Yeah, I see so many Indian folks, and
Many.
it's amazing. Like my son, well, I mean, he's a millennial. He's in his 20s, so they're used to this. They're used to this. But a lot of us who went to school in these, typical town, we didn't see this type of thing. So we just grew up kind of one way. When we went to college, it was still a little bit like that. Now you get to be friends with people from all different cultures.
Yeah. It's really wonderful. We are planning a wonderful event that anyone from the area is invited to. It's a collaboration between Westboro Youth and Family Services, the Westboro Public Schools, the Rotary Club, who is providing financial assistance and coordinating with planning, and a group called Westboro Connects. And together we are putting on an event on October 3rd called Smoke and Mirrors. It is a panel presentation to address the issue of vaping, prevention and education around vaping.
My God, yeah.
So for that, the reason that I thought of that as we're talking about the diversity of Westboro is because we are having, we will be providing language interpretation at that event, and we're translating the flyers into the 5 most used languages in Westboro, which includes Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic,
Hindu.
And honestly, I cannot remember the
Hindi.
next 2. Hindi would be one of the languages
That is a
commonly
tough one.
spoken.
I went online one time to try and I know French. That was 4 or 5 years of that. But Hindi is not easy.
Yeah.
But I love the artwork of their symbols.
Yeah, it's
that
beautiful.
really is fascinating. This is a great thing. So October 3rd, where again?
October 3rd, 6:30 to 8:30 at Mill Pond School Cafeteria.
Okay.
And
Is that off of Route 30?
I believe it is.
I think I've been over there.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, into the woods, sort of.
It is kind of into the woods. Yes,
Yeah.
it kind of sits off by itself. They have a lovely cafeteria there with round tables because part of the format of the event will be some small group discussion and some question and answer for our expert panelists.
Do you have to register?
You do not have to register. However, if you want free childcare or if you want language interpretation, we do ask for you to register in advance.
Yeah.
And that registration can be found on the Westboro Connects website. And I believe that is westboroconnects.org.
That sounds really good. Westboro connects.org?
Yes.
.org, okay. And it's October 3rd.
October 3rd,
What time again?
6:30 to 8:30 at Mill Pond School Cafeteria in Westboro.
Okay, I know it. And there'll be people there from all different cultures.
There will be. All different
Wow.
ages, all different cultures. The event itself is targeted for youth and adults,
Yeah.
so ages 12 and up. Anyone who's under 12 is welcome to come and attend our free child care service that will be there.
You know, my son, I don't know, he's living with his roommate in Worcester, we're cool. I don't know, he loves diversity. He is a flag waver for diversity, loves it. Well, of course, he lives right in the heart of Worcester. That's good. I'd love to see him, be able to see it out here, but I'd like to be there. What day of the week is it, a Wednesday?
Thursday evening.
Okay, it's a
Yes.
Thursday, October 3rd. That's coming up pretty quickly.
It is.
Are you going to be leading it?
I will not be leading it. I will have a role in moderating it, but our panelists include Dr. Safdar Medina, who's a pediatrician who works for UMass, and he treats a lot of patients who are experiencing problems with vaping and have nicotine addiction because of the vaping. And we are also including a panelist named Jason Verhusky, and Jason is the director of Wayland Youth and Family Services, and he is also a specialist in the area of substance use prevention.
Boy, it's I kept getting quite a few emails from my son. He quit regular cigarettes. He thought, began the vaping. He's not happy about this at all. I mean, it's really hitting home. Because when I start getting those angry emails, what do you say? I'm like, your life is important, He says, well, tackle the gun thing too. I'm like, okay, I got it. We need to tackle both. But he doesn't realize, I said, your family loves you. Basically, how about quitting for your own health? You want to live? This is worse than I've ever heard cigarettes talked about.
There's a lot of comparisons between what's happening now and what happened back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s with the big tobacco companies and the way that they were marketing tobacco products at that time to young people. Different culture, different ways of doing it, but it's very comparable as far as targeting young people, and it's not a very regulated industry.
I know it.
So people are learning through very unfortunate ways about the harms that vaping
But how many
can
deaths?
cause.
4, 5, 6 already?
Right, I've seen that recently.
That's
in
really
the news.
spooky. And it's not
I
just
know.
teenagers. Wasn't a couple maybe closer to their 20s?
Right.
What do you do when your parent brings someone in and they're vaping? Do you handle that also, or give that to a counselor for addiction?
Well, so we certainly can do some work around that area. One of the modalities of counseling that is recommended for helping people to move past their substance use and addiction is something called motivational interview, which assists people to explore what are the things that are motivating them to do the behavior they don't want to do, what are the things that are getting in the way of them being motivated to make changes, and counseling people around that. And so we can do that to some extent. We also strongly recommend that people work with their pediatricians to see what angles they want to do. Part of the reason that I got on board with putting on this event is because even as professionals in this field, we feel like we need so much more information, and that we don't always feel adequately equipped to guide youth and families around this issue. So we're learning constantly, and we decided, based on feedback from the larger community and based on our own experiences both in the schools and at Youth and Family Services, that we needed to prioritize this as a piece of education for our entire community.
Now, this event on October 30th, is it just about the vaping?
It is just about vaping, this particular event.
Okay. And you're going to have the pediatrician from UMass on. I mean,
Right.
when you start hearing the doctors saying, guys,
Right.
this is not good stuff. Cara, again, how can they reach you over there?
So, again, our phone number is the probably easiest way to reach us, and that is 508-366-3090. I don't call that number very often, which is why I have to think about it. And we can also be found on Facebook. You can look for Westboro Youth and Family Services on Facebook. And you can find us on the Town of Westboro website. So you can Google Westboro Youth and Family Services. We should pop right up to the top. And if you go to the Westboro Town website, you'll find a link to us very easily.
Are you on call, basically on call, by the local schools as a counselor if something happens? Sometimes they'll bring the counselors in afterwards. Are you on call?
We are. I am happy to say that in the 1 year I have been at Youth and Family Services, we have not had to respond in the off hours in an immediate way. I have received calls from administrators in the school system and in the police saying, just a heads up, something happened this weekend, somebody may be knocking on your door next, on Monday, or be prepared for a call or that kind of thing. And that has been very helpful. But yes, we are prepared for, in the case that there would be an intruder in a school or an incident of mass violence, we would be able to respond.
This is amazing. Cara, you'd written, was it a letter to the editor?
Right.
In the Community Advocate. And I read those newspapers, I scour them. And when I saw this, especially right now, families, the children, coping with the horrendous stress and trauma that's been going on, do you think it's getting more so? I see it's more and more.
As a therapist who's always specialized in trauma, I've seen trauma all my career.
There's
right?
different kinds, right? Domestic.
So there are, and they're all different brands. It is within the last few years that I have been personally much more alarmed by the mass violence, and the mass violence also that is targeted to specific groups out of hate. That is something I think that I am seeing more of. And we certainly, because of our access to media constantly now, we also are having access to more of it. So while the incidents do seem to be on the rise, even if they weren't, our exposure is certainly increasing.
Yeah, they hit the gun events at the shootings at the churches, the synagogues, and the schools. What's next? Even, you see groups like, so you say, well, would you like to go to this, like a big concert? I think twice, more than twice about, I don't think so. Well, it could happen in Las Vegas. They were there for a country western. This guy gets up at a hotel, just lets loose. That's it. No.
Because of the work I do, I've learned over time not to function out of fear. I think that in order to impact change, and that if we shy away because of fear, if we close ourselves off and we don't expose ourselves to the world, then we're missing opportunities to really thrive in the world. That doesn't mean that there aren't risks. There are absolutely risks. But I certainly have learned to reassure myself that, there are some things that are not in my control. There are some things that there are a lot of things that I can do every day to keep myself safe as I move through the world without hiding. And there are lots of ways to heal and support each other when we're exposed to violence. So while I know we can't avoid all trauma, and I do suggest people be cautious, I also want people to know that the more that we talk about these things, the more that we think about the underlying causes, the problems that really are the root of some of these incidents of violence, the more that we work around alleviating those problems, that's what's going to keep us safe, much more so than hiding out.
Yeah, Cara, this is terrific. Westboro Family Services,
Youth and Family Services.
Are they over in Shrewsbury too?
Shrewsbury does have a Youth and Family Services organization. Theirs is different. Theirs is not part of the town government, but a lot of the little towns around here do. Northborough has a Youth and Family Services.
Whitesville, I think, does too.
They might. I do not know that one. I know Northborough, Southborough, Hopkinton, Holliston. Ashland has something that's a little bit different, but a lot of the areas do have those.
We need it. I know. I could just picture myself in school, and I would certainly want to talk to a therapist seriously with what's going on, as well as I don't know, having the everybody get together in the auditorium and see doctors talk about it and counselors. So you don't feel alone with your fear.
Right.
That's what's going on. You don't know.
Absolutely. Isolation is one of the greatest risks for suffering, for emotional suffering.
It's toxic.
Yep.
Isolating, don't do it. Talk. Thanks for being with us, Cara.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, we'll see you next time and be my guest.
Thank you.